37 teachers out of a job in Hillsborough, New Jersey. This after the superintendent warned that if the voters in that town shoot down a ballot initiative asking for new spending of $8 million, if it didn't pass, he said there would be consequences. And last night in a school board meeting, those consequences were the loss of jobs for those 37 teachers. Let's bring in today's A-plus panel. We're joined by Afia Yunus. Slightly to my left, immigration attorney. Good to see you, Afia.
You too, Bill.
And Matt Rooney, who is the publisher and editor of the Save Jersey blog, also an attorney. Good to see you, Matt.
Great to be here.
All right, Matt, I'm going to start with you on this. Jordan Schiff is the superintendent. The budget, that $8 million, unrelated to these 37 teachers, but he made this threat, followed through on it. What do you think?
Yeah, that's the part about this that's so disgusting. Here's a guy who's earning something like $1 million over 5 years.
New contract, $1 million over 5 years, not including bonuses.
Yeah, and all evidence is that he never took a look at his own compensation or the administration's compensation. He basically held a gun to these teachers' heads and looked at the taxpayers and said, you either give me the money I want or I'm taking out these young educators, the future of the district. It's disgusting.
Afia, let me ask you, I spoke to the mayor this morning, Frank Delcourt. He called my show. I talked about this on the radio. And he was upset. He wasn't using the words as strongly as I was, but he was upset mainly because he said, look, it's more than 60% of our budget. And the Board of Education has the final say on the budget, which directly impacts taxes. They made this decision. Mayor can do nothing about it. Fair? Not fair to the voters and taxpayers?
I think it's fair because they are an elected school board, so the voters had a say in putting people into that office and giving them the authority to make that decision. I think the problem here is the school board made it a zero-sum game when it's not. So it's either you do this and we get this money or we're going to get rid of these teachers, and I don't think that that's what it is in reality. There needs to be more transparency as to where the funding is going overall. If they're responsible for 60% of the budget, we need to see what that is.
So I actually gave out Jordan Schiff's number this morning, had people calling him all morning, and
his cell phone.
Upset. Never heard from him. I did hear from Jack Chitterelli, who was a former assemblyman that represented that area. Heard from the mayor, haven't heard from the superintendent. We'll try him again tomorrow. But the real issue I have with this is the threatening tone, that it's like voters are being bullied, saying, if you don't give me this, because when I say unrelated, $3 million of that $8 million was dedicated to a full-day kindergarten. How does that have to do with these 37 teachers?
Yeah, and I mean, that's part of the reason I love this story, even though it's a terrible story, because it is a mirror of the problem with government up and down the ballot, whether we're talking about the governor or a local school board issue. They're constantly telling us it's a zero-sum game, that we either have to fork over the money, no questions, without transparency, or we're not going to get the services that we and our children deserve, when we know the answer is more complicated. Why aren't we looking at the school funding formula? Why aren't we looking to see whether there's any waste or redundancies? I saw in the article this morning that I read, they didn't even explore privatizing some of the janitorial services, something most companies have.
Well, that's the thing, Afia, and that's to the fairness issue. They didn't look at any other way to cut. They zeroed in on these teachers. And with the NJEA, look, if you're the last in, you're also the first out. And it seems to me that we're losing young teachers who have the passion for education.
Yeah, it's sad that whenever there's funding cuts, it always impacts the teachers. And I think this is a clear example of where we need more transparency. I'm always screaming that government would be more efficient if we had more transparency. If they're responsible for such a large chunk of the budget, we need to know where that money's going.
It's time for the voters maybe to start paying attention to these school board elections. Your vote really does matter. All right, thanks, guys.